Hi, my name is Charles Matthews, and I'm the architect here with Grizzly Bear Architecture and Design. And today we are looking at how to understand the finances surrounding your architectural project.
Well, hello everyone. It's Charles Matthews here, and today we are looking at answering the question how to understand the finances surrounding your architectural project. Now, I'm a licensed architect. I am not a financial consultant. I'm not a banker. I am not a mortgage broker. I'm not an accountant. I'm an architect. And so what I am telling you are things that are based on my understanding of the whole process, but for more specific information, you'll need to hire uh, those type of people in order to get the specifics of what you'll need to do in order to understand the finances surrounding your architectural project. But I think that it would be important for you to know, starting off, at least from my perspective, how to understand the finances surrounding your architectural project. So here we go. The overall big picture has to do with expenses. The two main questions you have to answer are, number one, do you have enough money to pay for the project? That's a yes or no question. If you don't have enough money to pay for it out of cash that you have on hand, can you get the money to pay for it? And so, answer if you can, then things can move forward. Now, that's the big picture, but let's go ahead and drill down a bit more into how to understand the finances related to your project. Now, development is the process, and I'm using my loose definition here, but development is the process that a person who is really interested in seeing a certain type of function happen in the real world, that person takes steps in order to secure funding, in order to get buildings built, in order to hire people, in order to establish a sense of order in a place where there had not been order before. That's what a developer does. And obviously, he does this in order to make money. He does it in order to make a profit. That's in the developers that I've met, that's not the only driving force, though. The developers that I've met have an actual concern not only for the environment that it's going into, but also the people who will be using it. And so, not all developers are bad guys. uh, and the ones I've met are truly genuine, caring, and trusting people. And they're trying to do a job that will, if you look at it from a big picture perspective, it will bring tens of thousands, if not millions of dollars to the people in the surrounding areas. And so they have a unique skill set that they bring to the table in order to accomplish projects. But typical questions that drive the development that need to be answered for any project in order to understand the finances is will you need to finance the project? And so if they need to finance it, there are certain constraints that different lenders would place on the work. Another question is, do you have the land available? If the land is available, has it been purchased, or is it somehow secured so that the whole process can start? Next question, do you know what your monthly payments will be? Now, your monthly payments are your bills. They're the things that you've got to have the resources in order to accomplish, because it doesn't matter if you have enough assets on paper. If you are cash poor, then you're still not able to meet your bills. Okay, so meeting your monthly payments. What are your contingencies? Now, I've addressed this in another video, but contingencies refer to the things that you don't expect would happen. these contingencies, these parts of life that happen as a result of being people who live in a world that has a measure of decay, and people who obviously don't know or don't remember different things that may be helpful. We live in this kind of world. We live in this kind of environment. And so, that being the case, there are going to be things that you run up against in a project. You've got to be able to plan for those things, and you've got to be able to set money aside in order to deal with those things. So, what are your contingencies? Sometimes contingency rate would be as a percentage of construction, 10% of the construction costs, up to 30% of the construction costs set aside just to deal with surprises. Okay, so realize that that's a part of it. And if you don't have money set aside for surprises, you could be the one who builds everything up to 70%, and then the project stops and people drive by and they look at it and they laugh at you. So someone started to build, but they didn't have enough money to finish. So what are your contingencies? Next, what is your time frame for the development of the project? If you're borrowing money, you've got to deal with interest rates, and when and how long those interest rates go for, and how much money you have to pay over the course of the entire project, how much you have to come up with on a monthly basis. So if your cash cost is really expensive, in order to do those kinds of things, you want to get the project done as quickly as possible. As quickly as possible, though, costs a lot more than slow and steady getting things done, covering your bases, and researching in order to make sure that projects are done and they're finished well. Understanding financing of your project also includes, as I alluded to earlier, the cost of money by way of what kind of percentage rate you're getting on your loan. Do you have private investors who are bringing cash into the project? And are there other financing strategies that you can use that are creative in terms of developing the project or achieving what you want to have done? Next, we look at the availability of land. Now, obviously, land is a static resource. There isn't more land that is being made. Okay, now if you go to places like Holland, where they pump the ocean away in order to have land available for people to live on, in order to settle in order to grow crops on, the availability of the land, they can take massive undertakings in order to reclaim land, but land isn't being made anymore, and so costs typically are driven up by way of supply and demand. Another aspect of understanding the finances of your architectural project are monthly payments. And so what type of payments will you need to make on a monthly basis? And that's not just the cash expense of your money, but also of the land and the securing the different professionals that are needed in order to complete your job. And what type of payments you would also need to consider. Well, you're going along, you're doing the project, you've hired the people, and then as a part of the development costs, you get hit with a $150,000, $175,000 fee that you have to pay to the city in order to develop your project. And that's just the nature of the situation. So you've got to know those costs in advance. That's why I strongly urge my clients to do construction feasibility analysis as the first thing. If they don't do that, then they're walking into a situation where they don't have any clue as to what kinds of things they could face a lot of times. And if they did have a clue, they would probably be doing some of the research themselves. So that's all a part of the whole picture. You have all these different kinds of costs. You want to try to nail down and understand those at the beginning before one shovel is dug into the ground in order to move dirt, in order to build the building, or move a wall around, or whatever. So what payments do you need to make? Do you have access to the cash to do so? Now let's say you have the money available by way of a bank, but the architect or a builder has to certify that certain things have been done before money is released in order to proceed with whatever aspect of the construction or design there is. And so that's also a factor that needs to be coordinated from a time frame so that everybody is paid on time so that the project won't slow down. And finally, do you have redundancies built into the cash supply in case one area fails? If you have these redundancies, then your job is going to be so much easier because you don't have to stress and strain about how are you going to get the money to do X, Y, Z. You've already actually lined that up. And I am a firm believer in not just having plan A and plan B, but I'll go all the way down to plan C, D, and E as far as what you're going to do if contingency B doesn't work out from plan A. And then if contingency B doesn't work, what is contingency C, all the way down to E? If you have that number of things, then you're going to be able to do your project. I say that from a big picture perspective. I don't know your project individually, so I can't really address that. But if you have redundancies built in, it seems like things will go well. As we talked about contingencies, and contingencies, or we talked about them as basically challenges. They happen during the course of the whole project. You should plan for contingencies in the architectural drawing process, plan check process and related fees, development fees, the construction process, moving in. Do you have the resources available in order to move everything into the place that you need it to be? And then fixtures, furnishings, and equipment. All those things are necessary in order to make your building functions work. So what we have here when we are looking at trying to understand the finances surrounding our architectural projects, the big picture, like I mentioned at the beginning, is you've got to have enough money to pay for your work before you start it. And if you don't, you have to be able to get the money in order to do it. Otherwise, if it stops, you may never get a chance to finish it. Okay, and I'm a firm believer. I would much rather a person not do a project because they realize they can't afford it than to start and go through architectural drawings where, yeah, I'll get paid for that, but they get to the end of the process and they say, you know what, this is going to cost me $200,000 more than what I had planned on. I can't do this. So we try to address those kinds of issues up front so that at least going into it, and so that's why I like to do what's called a construction feasibility analysis at the beginning, so at least you have a more solid understanding. And by the way, it is going along the lines of an estimate, because the people you're talking to are estimating what their costs will be. But having all that in one place is so much better than just kind of starting and saying, well, a few months into it, you know what, I can't do this. And then after spending tens of thousands of your own money, or being on the hook in order to pay that back to someone else, either an investor or a bank. So if you have enough to pay for it, go for it. If you don't have enough, the question is, can you get the money to pay for it? Well, I've enjoyed this this little time to talk about finances related to your architectural project. And like I said, I am not giving you in this little presentation any kind of a specific understanding of your project. And I'm not a financial planner or an accountant or any of those kind of professional money handlers. But what you have learned from this is my perspective as an architect related to understanding the finances surrounding your project. So hope you guys have enjoyed it, and feel free to leave a comment at the bottom.
Hi, this is Charles Matthews. Just wanted to say thanks for watching the video. If you have any thoughts or comments, feel free to leave those below. Visit our website at grizzlybeararchitecture.com. This video is one in a series of videos that address various issues surrounding architecture and our practice of architecture and Grizzly Bear Architecture. And if you have any thoughts or comments, I'd really appreciate those. Thanks.